Film Factor!
We have no reason.
We can practice. We'll get better.
Yeah. Huh?
Oh, hi!
Hi, once again, I am Lucas.
I'm Cameron!
And this is the second official film review we're doing for Film Factors. Alright, so this is for a movie called Hell or High Water, directed by David Mackenzie. David Mackenzie is a British filmmaker. He directed the movie Start Up, which was a prison drama that virtually no one saw, but a lot of people liked it. I actually have not seen the movie.
Nor have I.
The screenplay for Hell or High Water was written by Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan was the writer of last year's Sicario.
Again, I have not seen it. For me, the best part of this film is the acting. Because you have Ben Foster, and you have Chris Pine, and you have Jeff Bridges, and some actor whose name I don't have in front of me.
I think it was Gil Birmingham.
Gil Birmingham, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, firstly, I believe we should talk about what this film's about. It's about two brothers played by Ben Foster and Chris Pine, who's find out that the bank is foreclosing on their mother's property, so they start planning bank robberies in order to get the money to pay that back. And Jeff Bridges and his partner.
And Chris Pine's character is sort of a
They're on their hunt.
he's a poor farmer type. His brother, played by Ben Foster, been in and out of jail, and he's sort of near do well.
You know, saying Jeff Bridges and the other guy are on the trail of those two trying to stop them from robbing the bank. The thing about this movie for me is that, like I said, the best parts of this movie are the chemistry between those two pairs, between the two brothers and between Jeff Bridges and his partner, because together they both have a very interesting thing. Because at first Ben Foster appears to be the loose cannon crazy one, but then it becomes an interesting thing as Chris Pine also starts to get some amount of that, but it's also that Ben Foster's whole aggressiveness is also manifested into some kind of protection for his little brother, and those relationships, and all four of them get amazing performances, I would say. And those relationships, I feel like, where this movie really finds something really interesting and really cool. My issue with this film, and as far as a bank heist film, I think it's perfectly competent, but my issue with the bank heist aspects of it is that I don't think there is any thematically interesting or like any new ideas really brought to it. Because like the whole big two ideas, there's this whole 2008 like housing aspect of it brought to it, where it's like, look what the banks are doing, they're screwing everything over, and I feel like they do some subtle things that are kind of interesting, like linking it to the white men taking over like the Native Americans' lands, things like this. But I feel like it's hit too hard over the head.
I mean, I definitely agree with you to the extent that I think that the relationships in this movie are by far one of the strongest aspects.
For sure.
I think that all four performances in this movie, especially by Chris Pine, were really, really fabulous. Like, Chris Pine is an actor who I'd seen in a lot of other movies and thought that he was good. Like, in Star Trek, he's good. But this is the first performance where I've really seen him really dive into a character in a way that he really becomes this different person. And that was really cool for me to see. I think that he was absolutely fabulous in this movie. Ben Foster, typically, I mean, was very good because he's a good character actor.
Although, I feel like he has less to do in this movie, kind of, in a way.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
he's still good.
I think that both characters play off each other in a really, really, really good way.
It feels natural.
It feels very natural. They really do feel like brothers. You understand their brotherly relationship.
For sure.
You understand the ties that bind them together, and you also understand what breaks them apart. And I think that the other brilliant relationship in this movie between Jeff Bridges,
his partner,
sheriff guy, and then his partner is also brilliant, because Jeff Bridges is sort of kind of like this crotchety old racist guy, but he's not really. He likes his partner, but he sort of like playfully makes fun of him.
Yeah.
In some ways, and then his partner is sort of bemused by it in the way that he's just like, oh, he's just sort of like a crotchety old racist guy or whatnot.
I feel like it also plays off really well against the brotherly one, because it's
it's a different kind of relationship.
It's a different kind of relationship, but often in almost cop movies, I feel like they almost do portray them as brothers, but you can see a bit of the difference, which I find is interesting.
Something that happens in the climax of the film sort of confirms every relationship that they've slowly built up throughout the movie, and I think that was absolutely brilliant. However, getting to the bank heist aspect of the film, I actually do disagree with you a bit there, because I feel like I never found the bank heist aspect, the crime aspect of the movie, to really be that distractingly sort of like lazy or sort of uninteresting. I felt that it was definitely a basic idea, but it was a drive. It gave drive to the characters, and I think the character work was enough for me to overcome sort of like it not being a complicated.
It gave it drive, but I don't feel like it brought about much. Like especially with Ben Foster and Chris Pine, I don't think it changed their relationship in some really interesting ways and doesn't reflect on the characters. Because I would be fine with nothing new with the bank plot ideas, or nothing new with it being with no new big thematic ideas. Kind of, if it affected the characters in some way. I feel like if the emotion of the characters and their response to it and how they almost connected to it in some weird way. By the climax, you feel less of that, and I don't feel like those crime aspects really, aside from one moment, aside from like this big like pivotal moment where they kind of split. I don't feel like that aspect of it really reflected on those characters and made it interesting, made me care about those characters more. So I felt like it was a bit superfluous. It could have easily just been like, minus the chase aspect, it easily could have been some kind of just like road trip movie where they're going to like visit their family, something like that. Which,
well, I don't know, because I mean it is a crime tale, and I feel like one of the things about the movie is the movie is sort of like exploring in some ways. It's obviously exploring brotherhood, and it's exploring friendship.
Yeah.
By having this very sort of like stark, realistic setting in which they are robbing banks or whatnot. I think it put the characters in a situation where you're really sort of like
fearful for them.
It puts you in a question where whether you're questioning whether you're supposed to be rooting for them or not. Because it focuses in on these police people, and it also focuses in on the brothers. And I think it asks you, oh, should you be rooting for these people or should you be rooting for these people? And then you really do root for both of them.
But again, I don't think that's like the most like really interesting things. I feel like that's been done in crime stories before, and I feel like I've seen things like that in crime stories before, where either A, you know what the people are doing is wrong, and you kind of almost have to rationalize their actions and your sympathies for them with what is right, and just like the whole like Robin Hood-y kind of, is this good?
Yeah, but it's not a Robin Hood tale, and I think that's actually kind of.
It's not Robin Hood-y. It's Robin Hood-y with real. With real moral throwing, which I don't find that big or interesting.
But what I did find interesting is that when the police are investigating their crimes, the people aren't going to like help out with the robberies, but they're not inclined to give the police information. But it's not because like they do actually give that waitress in one scene money, but it's not like they're acting like Robin Hoods. It's just that everyone else in the town can identify with what they're doing.
Yes.
It's sort of like it's painting a broader picture of a group of people using this brother's tale as a way to sort of paint a political landscape, and I think that and I like that. I do think that it is a bit heavy-handed.
Oh, it's very heavy-handed. Like there's a very big speech by the partner about like, oh, they're taking our land and all this and things like that, and I feel like that's the one big thematic idea, aside from the explorations of these friendships and these brotherhoods. I feel like that's the one big thematic idea the film hasn't beleaguered it too much. Yeah, well, there are definitely points during the film where like the last one is just like, oh, that bank's been stealing from me for like 50 years, and it can get a little beat you over the head. Just like I get it. And like that's my main disconnect. It brought nothing to the crime story, and the crime story didn't create anything super interestingly, emotionally, or thematically to me. And so that's what ultimately I feel like is the biggest failing of the film.
Okay, but looking at it this way, I don't feel like that those were those heavy-handed moments, but I don't feel like those heavy-handed moments were a large enough part of the movie that it really distracted from the fact that I think the bank robbery aspect of the film just serves as sort of an exciting thing for you to sort of get behind. Because ultimately, I mean, I found the movie, apart from being interesting and being involving, I also found it to be really entertaining.
I guess I would say the word is engaging more than entertaining.
Yeah, engaging, yeah.
Engaging because I was definitely more invested in the character aspects of it, more than I was engaged in the crime story idea aspects of it. And I feel like that's so we should mention that this movie is beautiful. It's shot, I believe, in New Mexico, even though it is set in like West Texas.
Right.
But it's a lot of like low, sad deserts and beautiful things like that, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful cinematography and a beautiful sense of place.
Yes, for sure.
Like the atmosphere here was great. I think the score was done. Well, it was an original soundtrack that was done by Nick Cave
and someone else.
And it really lends the film sort of like this very grounded, realistic setting, while also sort of appreciating sort of the vast sort of like nothingness.
Yeah, and there's some little fun details about it, like Neil's Townswell, was like the crabby waitress, little things like that that are really nice. There's also a very nice little nice sense of humor that kind of almost runs.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about with the entertainment value. I think that this movie is it's not a comedy, but it is funny. There are moments of the film that are actually quite funny.
And I feel like that definitely did lift the overall entertainment score for me.
And I think it's also worth noting that the final scene in this film is fantastic.
It's great.
I think that without spoiling anything, the final confrontation between some characters is so well done, and I think it speaks volumes about the movie that in that scene, the most intense moment of the entire film for me was just two characters looking at each other in complete silence.
That was almost for me more satisfying than the big explosive climax of the movie because I was so much less engaged with that aspect of it.
No, I mean, I was still engaged, especially because of that certain thing that does happen during that
Yeah.
scene. I'm gonna say in terms of entertainment value, I don't know, you could consider this a little too high. I'm saying because of just how ridiculously enthralled I was in this movie and because I did like this movie more than you, I'm actually giving entertainment a 9. I thought this movie was really, really enthralling.
I originally had it a bit higher, but I think I'm gonna only give it like a 6-ish because I mean it's fairly interesting entertainment value wise, but again, it's just not the most interesting or like really like smart crime story that I've seen, and it feels a bit superfluous.
And in terms of filmmaking technical aspects, I could give this movie an 8. The cinematography is beautiful. The sound is great. The sense of place is fabulous. I think that it's actually is in some ways a visually distinctive film.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah.
They also gave it an 8 because I feel like that is actually a very pivotal part of that movie. I feel like it just makes you. I guess it does engage you into it and pull you into it and it's successful.
Perhaps it's a bit flawed, but I'm going to say Substance is also an 8. Because in terms of just looking at the brother relationship aspect of it and the relationship between the two cops, I think that was just, it leaves you sort of thinking about the way that sort of like the ties that bind people together and also leaves you thinking about sort of the sense of morality, sort of like who are you supposed to identify with in the movie and why do you identify with that person?
I give the Exploiter 5.5 because that's the only aspect of it that I cared about, or the only thematic or emotional idea that I feel like I got out of this movie. So that averages out for me to a 6.5.
Wow, so we have way different. You have a 6.5, I have an 8.3.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I could see why you do it, just didn't do it as much for me. Yeah.
Alright, well that was our review for Hell or High Water. We'll have more reviews coming up soon. We're sort of getting started with this. And we'll hopefully have more reviews upcoming in the upcoming weekends.
Like try to review Don't Breathe, maybe?
Yeah, Don't Breathe, fingers crossed, yeah.